What's up, everybody? Want to welcome you to this edition of In Studio SMG Solar Music Group LLC in conjunction with First Fam Radio. This is our podcast. Again, this is In Studio. I'm Music Matisse. I'm joined as I am each and every single episode with First Fam's own
First Fam Chill, man. What's up, everybody?
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure to welcome our guest for today. I've known this man for almost 20 plus years, if not a little more. He's an artist, he's a father, he's a husband, he's an entertainment attorney, and all around decent guy that I'm honored to call a friend. We'd like to welcome to In Studio today, the one and the only Mr. Tracey Lee. Give him a round of applause, folks.
Salute everybody out there. Absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me, man.
Oh, man, we are glad that you took the time to hang out with us for a few minutes. We got a lot of things to talk about. So we can go back to front. We can go front to back. As I told you before we went on, you know, things that we've talked about before, things that I know, but we can also deal with some of the present day situations. Sure. Because, you know, like I do, the world is changing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just crazy, man. Like, we're at a point where no matter what continent you're on, no matter what ethnicity, what religion, what lifestyle, it just doesn't matter. Like, the whole world is changing right now. But I guess we could start at the very beginning. Mm-hmm. How did Tracey Lee start actually doing music? How did that come about?
Really, I mean, if you want to go way back to the beginning, like the beginnings, it really started, you know, in the house with my mom, my grandmom, my grandpop, you know, all constantly having music in the crib. And it also started in the church where I would emulate the choir conductor, if you will, like standing on top of the pew. Mm-hmm. And, you know, at 3 years old and just understanding, you know, rhythm at such an early age and musicality and things like that. You know, it started with the, you know, the listenings of, you know, the Marvin Gayes and the Stevie Wonders and the, you know, the Jackson 5s and the Curtis Mayfields of the world and the Donny Hathaways. It started with these type of surroundings, you know, and then, you know, being as though that I was a child or am a child of the 70s, 1970 to be specific, you know, right. We are of the culture. We are hip hop. So we are this new phenomenon. You know, back then it was considered a new phenomenon that is in Generation X, if you will, you know what I'm saying, to come up on the scene and create this culture that had never been seen before. And so it was just, you know, a natural thing when, you know, it stemmed from, you know, from graffiti to breakdancing to, you know what I'm saying, to pop locking to, you know what I mean, DJing and MCing that, you know, I would gravitate to one of them, you know what I'm saying, if not a couple of them, because back then we did more than just, you know, whatever it is that, you know, you perfected. Some of us have perfected more than one of these type of elements that are, you know, encompass the craft, or should I say encompass the culture. But I happen to gravitate more so towards MCing than the other elements of the culture. And so the first time I heard, you know, and I wasn't, you know, born in New York City and I wasn't raised in New York City, so I didn't get a real taste of it until like 1979 when I heard Rapper's Delight. And I immediately fell in love with it. You know what I mean? So, right. You know, and then, you know, we'll get into, you know, the other influences as we, you know, proceed this conversation. But those are really the humble beginnings. You start by talking about the house, talking about the church, you're talking about the R&B music that we grew up on, and then also the culture from its inception. You know what I mean?
Okay. So all of the influence that you received coming up as a child, the culture being brand new and everything else. But when did you individually reach the point in your life when you said, you know what, this is it. This is me. I'm an MC. I'm a rapper. I have to do this.
Oh, I hold 3 MCs solely responsible for that. That is Millie Mel, 1982. You know what I'm saying? And you know the song, The Message. That's the first time I ever heard an MC that was so eloquent with not only painting a picture that I can actually see without actually seeing it, but eloquent with the words. I'm a wordsmith. Like I love words, man. I'm a big fan of word. I'm a big fan of vocabulary. He was the first. Then there came Tila Rock, It's Yours, because he's also a wordsmith, but then he came with the, with the production of Rick Rubin, came with these drums that I had never heard before. You know what I'm saying? With regards to the boom bap. You know what I mean? That was really the first thing the first song that I could remember that encompassed the boom bap. And he actually says it in the rap, in the song. The boom bap, boom bap, you know what I'm saying? And then there was LL Cool J. Now, LL Cool J was really a breed of the previous two that I'm talking about, combined with the energy, combined with the persona, combined with the moxie, combined with the first person that I ever considered to be a rap superhero and superstar. So those are the three MCs that really made me be like, nah, I got to do this. I really got to. So it just started with those three. But there were other influences, but it really started with those three.
Okay, so how did you develop once you realized, okay, this is a changing point in my life. This is a pivotal moment. I have these three major influences, all of whom are successful in their own right. I mean, hell, LL is still doing things today, still making music on TV, movies, etc. So what was your development like? You reached that zenith to the point of discovery.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got to pursue. So what started the pursuit and how did it continue to where you ended up with Mark Pitts and a major label?
It was a combination of a lot of things. It was influences, like, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the other influence within my maturation process. Again, I named those three, but then there were other influences like Rakim, Cool G Rap,
Of course.
Chuck E, KRS-One, Ice Cube, Scarface. These were people that I looked at that developed certain things about their artistry that I gravitated towards, and they did things in their own right better than the others that I mentioned and anybody that came after that. I made a demo tape, or what you want to call a demo tape. It wasn't really a demo tape. It was really, a recording that me and a couple of my friends did back in 1983. And this is when I discovered that I had a gift, you know what I'm saying? We were called the 5 MCs, because back then that's what it was.
Yeah.
With regards to group names and things like that.
Yep.
My first name was MC Lee, you know what I'm saying? So, I made this with 4 of the cats, and I kind of stood out, I guess, according to, the listener, my peers. I kind of stood out to the rest of the MCs. And merely, because these were the beginnings of stages of rap music and the beginning stages of MCing. So, real elementary. So the thing that kind of stood out probably is the bounce, the cadence, and the flow and the voice. And so those are the things that I discovered early that I really I have a gift here. You know what I'm saying? So do I wish to cultivate the gift? And then here come these influences that help me to cultivate my gift, because, without biting, you know what I'm saying, I did kind of sound like a lot of these people that I just named, just trying to figure out who Tracey Lee is eventually, you know what I mean? And so, throughout high school, we sent demo tapes, you know what I mean? And for those listeners, yes, they were cassette tapes that we used to put in the mail. These weren't MP3s. This is old school here, you know what I'm saying? So we putting them cassette tapes in the mail, sending them to, the likes of Def Jam and Next Plateau and Tommy Boy and all these other, indie, really the beginnings of the indie label that had major distribution.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we would, try to shop for a deal. And I think, I said to myself, and this is all throughout high school, but I said to myself, if I didn't get a deal by the time I went to college, then I wasn't going to pursue it anymore. And so I didn't get the deal by the time I went to college, which I eventually wound up going to Howard University. I decided that, I will go the another route with something else that I'm very passionate about, which is sports. And so I had a couple D2 scholarships for basketball, and some people asking about baseball Division 3, but because it wasn't Division 1, it was like, nah, I'm not going to pursue it as an athlete. But then I can go to college and get a degree in communication as a sports broadcaster. So that was where me not getting a deal in high school, it led me in that direction, but only for a semester, because after the first semester I was there, second semester freshman year, now we go from 1988. I graduated high school. First semester freshman year was end of 88. We go into the spring semester of 1989, freshman year still, and I run into a cat by the name of Derek D. Angeletti. And so D. is really a central figure in me being the person or the MC or the artist, within the industry that I am today. Because and we'll get into that as I continue to tell the story. But I saw him rhyming on the yard, right? Him and this cat named China Black. And it kind of blew my mind, because he was killing it. And for those that don't, the name Derek D. Angeletti, and you may know him for certain things, but first and foremost, he's an MC, and he started off in a group called Two Kings and the Cipher. But this particular day, he's the one that when I heard him, I said, "Oh, I got to get back in it," because when you're out the culture, man, you don't lose it. You just, you may put it to the side, but you don't stop doing it because you are the culture. And so I may have put it to the side for a semester, but he quickly, got me back into the mind frame of, oh no, I got to do this for real. And so, fast forward, I went to school with him. I went to school with Sean Puffy Combs. I went to school with Mark Pitts. And, these are the humble beginnings of, the Bad Boy era. And then, Mark coming up on the Bad Boy and then eventually getting his own situation. Dot always, and I always kept in touch with Dot more so than any of the other guys that I named. But he was the link between myself and Mark. And Mark knew me from school, but he didn't know that I got busy. But Dot did. And so Dot is the one that told Mark, yo, I think you need, once you get your deal, I think you need to, look at Trey. And so the rest is history from there.
Wow. So you were surrounded, once you made the choice, this is what you had to do. You were surrounded by greatness and people who went on to make, history and become the trendsetters and the tastemakers of the genre.
Absolutely.
So
God, man. So that one number God, that's everything else that we're going to talk about, but go ahead.
Absolutely. You know it. So now you have the introduction to Mark Pitts. What's that whole process like, and where was he at the time as an executive in his career?
Okay, so like I said, I went to school with Mark. Me and Mark came into Howard at the same year, 88. He was, once Puff got his situation, he was basically an understudy under Puff. And then he also, because he was an understudy, he was fortunate enough to be able to manage the late, great Notorious B.I.G. And so from that, you know how this business is, man. It's like, you strike while the iron's hot. And if the industry deems you hot, then they start, making certain things or making certain situations and things available to you. So because of the success of Bad Boy and Big, Mark was able to parlay that into a distribution situation through Universal with his label By Storm. And so I was the first artist that he signed under that label, you know what I'm saying? Or at least the first hip hop artist signed under that label. And so he is the owner, founder, CEO of By Storm Entertainment. And from there, that's where the first album Many Faces was born. That's where, you know, it came off. It came out under that label. So again, he ran the ship over at By Storm and still continues to do so, as well as being now, I believe he's the president of Black Music over at RCA. I want to, you know, don't misquote me for that, but I know he holds a position at a major label right now. But at the time, and he still is the CEO and owner and founder of By Storm Entertainment.
What's your relationship like with him these days?
You know, it's cordial. You know what I'm saying? It's not like we're going out and having dinner, but every time I see him, it's always, oh, what's good, what's up? But that's not, you know, on a daily basis. You know what I mean? He's continuing to do what he does, you know, from an executive level in the business and in the industry. You know, he's still, you know, running with you know, Chris Brown and Usher and
Right.
and all of these cats and making, you know, not making a name for himself, but, you know, still being successful in the business. But as far as our relationship, it's cordial. It's nothing more, nothing less. You know what I mean?
Right, right, absolutely. Now let's talk Many Faces. What year did Many Faces come out?
1997.
Okay.
1997.
That album, most notably had your first single, The Theme, which became a hit.
Yeah.
To me, and it was a hit across the board. It's still a classic in a lot of clubs.
37 weeks on the charts. 37 weeks on the charts is like, if you're into numbers, you know what I'm saying?
And
like,
you know I am, because that's the proof.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's one of the things off the record that made EPMD one of my favorite groups. You know, that line is one of my favorite lines. Dropped the album Strictly Business and you thought we would fold. 30 days later, the LP went gold. And you pull up Billboard magazine, you open it up, and whoop, there it is, the RIAA certification, the circle.
Facts.
It was right there. So it wasn't like they was lying. So when people say that, well, everything ain't about numbers, it's not about numbers, but numbers make things factual.
Yes.
So, I mean, salute to you for that many weeks on Billboard. But that album, again, to me, it was a great album. I still think to this day there are cuts on that album that should be released in this day and time. Stars in the East comes to mind to be one.
Yes.
But when the theme dropped, were you prepared for how successful that single was going to be, being a rookie, a new MC in the game? Were you prepared for that?
No, absolutely.
Or is there any way you could have been prepared?
No, not at all. Because look, let's look at the timeline here. I got signed in April of 1996. I recorded that record probably somewhere in the neighborhood of July and August of 1996, amongst other records. That wasn't even the first record that I recorded. It was getting play on the air, maybe August, September, right? It was getting play on the airwaves come, you know, in certain markets come end of October of 1996.
Right.
We shoot the video for this record in January of 1997, and they released the album in March of 1997. So in less than a year, this record caused everything to speed up drastically. There was no setup, you know what I'm saying? There was no introduction to Tracey Lee, who's Trey Lee, da-da-da-da-da. It was the first time most people in the world heard Tracey Lee. It was the theme, period. And so there was no way to prepare for that. It just took off. And the funny thing about the record is that, you know, after we recorded it, I believe it. Okay, most of the people, my crew didn't believe in it. It was me, Dot, my man, that's about it, right? The label believed in it. I give Mark and them, you know, credit for that. They believed in it, but a lot of people, especially the voices in the industry, meaning the DJs at the time, did not. Gave it to Clue, gave it to Flex, gave it to da-da-da-da-da. And I think partially part of that is because they didn't know who I was. Who's Trey? Why are we, who? I wasn't politically connected yet. Oh yeah, I know you, Mark, and I know da-da-da. But who's this? I never seen them in the circles. This is what I'm thinking. It wasn't until their OG said it was hot, meaning Cool DJ Red Alert. When Red Alert put the stamp on it, then it was a frenzy. But before
Oh,
that,
okay.
they wasn't touching that record. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I had another record that I did with Faith Evans, you know what I'm saying, called
Mhm.
Showtime, that was done before that record that they wasn't touching. Because again, they didn't know who I was. You know what I'm saying? This is what
Right.
I'm thinking. But once Red Alert put the stamp on it, boom, it took off. Then it
Mhm.
went into it was a whirlwind. Then nobody knew. So the natural reaction for Universal is, oh, let's put out an album. We
Mm.
gotta, catch up to the momentum of this. We gotta capitalize off the momentum of this, should I say? And so that's what put everything in motion quicker than anybody could have prepared for.
Mm. Do you feel that the process of putting the whole album together, that it was rushed because of the success of the single?
At the time, maybe, but in hindsight, no, because
Mhm.
I felt like the records that I had made
Mhm.
actually were preparing us for anything that may have happened. Meaning, a lot of those records that are on that album, let's say that came out in '97, a lot of those records were about 3 years old. Those were demos. You know what
Oh,
I'm saying?
okay.
So essentially, they were ahead of its time. Point being is that this album continues to, I get more accolades for this album in 2020 than I did in 1997. But then that speaks to the material that was on that particular record. So going back
Mhm.
to answering your question, I, I felt like it was rushed at the time, but really it wasn't, because the records were already, um, the records were so ahead of its time that
Mhm.
you could have put them on that album. You could put them on an album now and it'll still resonate. So,
Mhm.
that answer is kind of twofold. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, your last statement when you said you could put them on an album now and they'll still resonate, that's why I said it. I remember telling you last year in 2019, I think if nothing else, those singles should be re-released,
Yes.
and you should actually do videos to those singles
Yes, you
now.
did. Yes, you did.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
Because
you
the song quality on that album for that time, it's still timeless.
did. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no time frame on it where you can listen to it and say, "Well, I knew that was done in the '90s. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
knew that was done, in the late '80s or what have you." To me, you put out a great album.
Thank you.
And I told you when we first met, like you couldn't tell me at that time with the theme being what it was, as big as it was, the album already being released when we met. I just knew you was sitting on gold, literally. Like you couldn't tell me
Which
that you
still
were
which
sitting on
still is in question here. And we
right.
talked about this. If we did some fact finding and some real deep digging and deep diving, I'm
Hmm.
sure some real numbers will come up. We get told there are other numbers involved, but I don't believe those numbers.
As far you don't believe him as far as what there are other numbers involved, or that.
I believe that it's a lot higher than what we're being told.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. Um, 2 weeks ago, I had Buddy White on here, another good friend of mine from Intro, and I will say this: um, a lot of these major labels, because of what's going on in the industry, they are doing deep dives,
Audit.
and
We need to audit.
it, they'll call it an audit, deep dive. But what I'm saying to you is, brother,
Yes.
my understanding is their second album was questioned, similar to Many Faces.
Mm-hmm.
And come to find out now, they're getting ready to Intro's getting ready to release a documentary. The clips from it
I
look
saw that.
great. They're getting ready to release a new album under Warner Music Group. Warner went back, did that audit, and that second album, from my understanding, is now certified.
See,
You know what I mean? It's
I believe,
RIAA certified.
I believe,
Um, and if I remember correctly, and I could be wrong, but I think it's platinum.
I believe.
But this was an album that, like Many Faces, has been out there for over 20 plus years. So
Mhm.
with downloads and streaming and even the physical sales and digital sales, etc., I still think that if there's a way for you to get that audit, that you should get it. And at least this way you'll have some closure, because I still think that album is a minimum certified gold. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree.
So, we get to Many Faces. Now, the unique thing is you have this banger. It's called The Theme. It's a club banger.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you have a secret on the album,
Mm-hmm.
which basically directly it's like two secrets in a way. You have two of the hottest artists of the moment who are platinum selling, golden platinum selling artists, and you can't even advertise on the front of the CD that they're featured on there. And as the Notorious B.I.G., that's Busta Rhymes.
No, I
When
was
you
able to.
say those names,
I was able to advertise Buster. I was able to advertise.
oh, you were?
Yeah, because we
Okay.
got a video for Buster
Okay.
on MTV and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Right. The remix to the theme. Um, which creatively to me was it was kind of ahead of its time too, with the bikes and the the cross references of adulthood and childhood and everything. And you and Buster did your thing, so you can't advertise the Big is on the album. Do you think, as hot as Big was at the time, not being able to advertise that he was featured on that album on the song "Keep Your Hands High," do you think that hindered you in a way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Excuse me.
come on, man, it's big. I mean, it's
Right.
just imagine. Like, I mean, you're talking about somebody who's at the mountaintop at that particular time. He is
Biggie
numero
in his
uno.
prime.
He is the creme de la creme. He is the guy.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? He's the king. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
if you know that I'm affiliated with the king, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Hmm.
I at least get some residue. You see what I'm saying? I may not
Right.
achieve, you know what I mean, the
Yeah.
same status, but I'm at least get the residue, right? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I mean, it's all speculation, but damn it, it's a great speculation. You know what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely. What was the relationship like with you and him? Was it the fact that both of you were managed by Mark, or did you all have your own relationship after you met, you
Um,
know, irregardless of that?
Um, I mean, of course, it was Mark's connection. You know what I mean? He's the
Hmm.
one that, and as a matter of fact, I'll like now I tell people, along with D Dot, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Again, central figure for me getting signed. I believe Big was also another main factor for me getting signed because when
Hmm.
when Dot would give Mark, the demos, he would sit in a car and listen to them joints with Big. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay.
C's would be in the back too, like, but he would listen to him with Big just to see,
Hmm.
what Big thought, what Big, I mean, would be
Right.
a
For
assessment
sure.
on it. And Big told him, yo, your man is nice. You know what I'm saying? On
Hmm.
several occasions. As a matter of fact, there was one song in particular, I want to say it was Repent, that Big really put the stage. He's like, yo, this right here. And so when Mark heard that record, that solidified
Hmm.
it. So once me and Big got an opportunity to chop it up, um,
Hmm.
you know, that not only that studio session, which we sat in there for 8 hours, and
Hmm.
we're writing, but at the same time we building. You know what I'm saying? He's
Right.
me and showing me, you know, so much about the game at that particular time. Um, and I'm just soaking it all up, and I'm like, damn, word, like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, he gave it to me from a perspective that I had never heard it before at that time.
Hmm.
And then also, not only that, but I will also call him up, about other things, you know what I'm saying? Like from time to time, just asking, certain things, about certain, trying to gain some knowledge and advice on things. And then even leaving out of, that day, of his untimely demise out in LA, we
Hmm.
partying at the museum and all that. And, he's like, yo, and he saw the expression on my face, that night, and he's like, "Yo, Trey, what's good? What's the problem?" You know what I mean? But so for him, he didn't, just to even like have not really the wherewithal, but to be even concerned about my well-being just by looking on
Hmm.
my expressions on my face tells me, yo, dude is really genuine about what I mean, trying to build a relationship with me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so those kind of conversations, like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like we was talking on the phone constantly, blah blah blah, but it was just you could tell it was a real thing whenever we did
Right.
have conversations. You know what I mean?
Now, what was his concern that night at the Peterson Museum about the expression on your face? What was on your mind at the time to even make him say that?
I couldn't pinpoint it. I just was feeling a certain way. And so, when we walked out, we was walking out, we both walked out at the same time. And so he's asking me like, yo, Trey, what's good? What's the problem? Da, da, da. I was like, yo, I don't know, man. Something don't feel right. And he's like, nah. Put a smile on your face, man. We about to go to the Playboy Mansion. Da, 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 da. It's the after party. Da. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yeah, you know what? You right, man. You know what I'm saying? So gave him a pound. He went to the right. I went to the left. And 2 minutes later, that's when we get the phone call. You know what I'm saying? I went in the car with Mark. He went in the, you know what I'm saying? You know where he went. And so Mark gets the call while we in the car, 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes later. And so it was like, damn. And so, you know, me and Mark, you know, we spun the car around, driver spun the car around. Me and Mark went to the hospital. Mark went inside, you know what I'm saying? And I'm outside. You know, there's all type of people out there. And then the Mark comes out before, you know, the news really hit. And he told me, yo, he's gone. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
So, you know, me and Mark is walking. I don't know what street that was in front of the hospital, but the craziest thing that I remember was it was some people, it was kind of dark. And I heard some voices, we heard some voices. And it was some cat across the street, like, yo, Mark, what up? What up? And so, you know, Mark is like, you know, he ain't answered because he's still like, yo, processing this whole
in shock.
thing. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
then the boy was like, oh, you ain't got no love for the West Coast now? And I never forget that. And I'm like, and so as he's saying that, I get a call from management, which I think was Lance, I want to say. And he's like, yo, man, y'all got to get on the plane and get up out of there, like first thing in the morning. Now, I don't remember if I actually left, but I know a lot of my crew did, you know what I'm saying? But it was just, it was weird. Like, you know, you knew what was going, whoever that was, whatever, you knew what was going on. And you felt like you needed to say that at that particular time. That always lingered in my mind, and it was strange to me. Like, you know, did you know anything about this? Did you have something? Like, whoever that was, you know what I mean? So
you don't remember what the person looked like?
Nope, I didn't, because I looked and I wasn't. It was a group of them. You know what I'm saying? I looked and I wasn't, but I just remember that what the person said. Oh, you ain't got no, you know what I mean? Like, word right now?
Yeah, the timing. Now, prior to that unfortunate event, how long were you in LA before the awards? Did you and Big get to hang out at all while you were out there?
No.
Okay.
I saw him one time. It was right before the actual award. I saw him one time. I know me and Mark was doing some shopping. He was trying to make sure I was all right for the camera and all that good stuff. But we didn't really get to hang out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So you actually attended the awards ceremony, not just the after party.
Yes.
Okay. How was the awards that night? Like in the actual venue while everything was being televised, was there a strange vibe, or did you get that feeling when you got to
I got it when
the
I got
after party?
Yeah, it was the after party.
Okay.
Like the awards, it was cool. I mean, everything was, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, you know, not only being an artist, I was there, you know, like looking as a fan too, because I seen a lot of people that I, you know, grew up listening to and all, not necessarily grew up listening to, but, you know, during my whole process, remember hearing this person on the radio and seeing that person on the video, and I'm just chopping it up, and they knew who I was. And, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, so it's like, it's the excitement of it all during the award. But it was really that night. It was that night.
Right.
That's when the vibe.
Okay.
It was a hell of a party. The party was crazy, but it was probably one of the best parties I had been to. You know what I'm saying? But it was still something strange.
Right.
And it's something that I can't really put my fingers on. And it was just a vibe that was just strange to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Knowing what you knew of Big, the relationship you had with him, where do you think if he was still alive, he would be as far as the industry and his career in 2020?
I think he would have been more of an executive. I think he would have. I think he is. I think Jay is doing what he would have done.
Oh, really?
I think Jay is doing exactly what he would have done, because the conversation that I had with him in the studio that night was, yo, once I'm, you know, done with my obligation, I'm out. You know, he was already setting
Wow.
things up for the after of him
Mm-hmm.
being an artist, if you will. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, him partnering up with and, you know, the Brooklyn Mint Clothing and Junior Mafia and, you know, all these other,
Right.
like he's already plotting and planning this aspect of his career out. You know what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
think he was setting himself up from an executive perspective. You know what I mean? And so
Gotcha.
I'm thinking he would have been doing the same thing that Jay's doing now.
Understood. So we have a hell of a debut album that comes out. Um, it's acclaimed. That's for sure. You got a hit single. You
Mm-hmm.
got Biggie. You got Bust on there. You got a remix video which Bust is featured in.
Yes.
Keep Your Hands High. That
Yes.
session, you held your own,
Thank
despite what people may say or whatever. Lyrically, I thought it was a song that both of you all, did your thing on.
you.
And the comment I just made when I said you held your own, um, how did you feel within the past year or so when you heard the things you heard? And I don't think Nore meant anything, intentional or like.
I'm sorry, Tracy Lee probably hates me at this point. But he bodied Tracey Lee.
Wow.
Like,
You know, to do harm. I think Nore was just being Nore. I don't know Nore.
Mhm.
I'm definitely give him kudos for what he's done and how he's transitioned from an artist to being, what Drink Champs has become. And I mean, hell, that's where we aspire to go
Absolutely.
as far as the success and everything. But did you feel any type of way when he made the statement? And I don't, like I said, I don't think it was anything that he was trying to be, intentionally negative about. He
Mhm.
was in the moment, he was talking, and he just said, that when he's looking at those parallels, that was his opinion, which we all are entitled to. But when he made the statement about Big bodying you on
Mhm.
that verse and on
Mhm.
that song, rather, for Keep Your Hands High, did you
Mhm.
feel any type of way? And did you respond?
Oh yeah, of course I felt a certain type of way because first of all, I look at beyond opinion, right? You can have your opinion. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about opinions. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on where it's coming from, right? So
Right.
that goes to the second phase of it, the validity of the opinion. Who is actually saying this? You know what I'm saying? Is it a credible uh, uh, lyricist? You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? That is spewing this opinion, if you will.
Right.
So then if you do it once, I'm fine with that. You know what I'm saying? That's
Right.
cool. But for you to use your platform, which was actually beneficial for me in the long run, you know what I'm saying, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever little light you put on my name, but for you to mention that on your platform not only once but twice in
Mm-hmm.
front of two people that are deemed to be very credible lyricists in this industry, meaning Jadakiss and Method Man. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Um, I felt like I didn't have to really respond, with regards to a diss record. Nah, I'm not doing that.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I gotta say something because
Right.
I'm just wondering, you know what I'm saying, where did I come from? You know what I'm saying? Like, damn, I'm almost flattered and honored, but at the same time, it's like, is this something that's been lingering in your mind for the last 20 something years? Like, it felt
Mm-hmm.
like to me that maybe, could be wrong, that you know it sounded like you felt like maybe not you, but other people should have had the opportunity to rhyme with Big other than me. You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
so because that opportunity didn't present itself, and I
Mm-hmm.
also question whether or not you actually listened to the lyrics. Did you listen to the
Right.
flow? Did you listen, or did you just say, "Oh, it's Big and Trey Lee, who's Trey Lee?" You know what I'm saying? Because there
Mm-hmm.
really is a stigma when it comes to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people, because I'm not in certain circles, because I didn't, presumably go platinum, because my career in the industry was short lived, that I must be whack, or I must be, less than, all the other known, more revered MCs out there. So I had to have gotten bodied because it's big. And because it's Trey Lee, you got Big who's at the mountaintop, and you got Trey Lee who we don't know who exactly Trey Lee is. So he had to get bodied, not based on you actually listening to the record, but based on status. He had to get bodied. It's Tracey Lee. There's no way he could have not gotten bodied by Big. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Which it wasn't even a situation where it was a body. It was a body situation. We made a record. You know what I mean? And the record was hot. You can't deny the record. You know what I mean?
With that being understood, have you and Nore ever met? Do y'all know each other?
I don't think so. We might have met, just like on one of them things in the industry where both of us might have been drinking and, it was a what's up and we don't remember, but you know what I'm saying? I never had a conversation, but I mess with Nore. I think he's made some great records over the years, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Neptunes and all that, you know what I mean? Like he's a quintessential part of hip hop, and I love what he's doing on the podcast too, you know what I mean? But, as far as, did I feel some type of way? Of course I did, you know what I mean? Especially after, mentioning it twice. Was I in my feelings? No, not at all. But I felt like I had to say something. And I not only said something via IG, like that's your opinion, but I also mentioned it in a record, that I did called Smoke. I'm gonna let him run with it. He don't know no better. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't done with it. Like he don't, I don't think a lot, and it ain't just him. I don't think it's a lot of people that really listen to me. You know what I mean? That really listen, and not the two. But I think I'm at a stage in my career where I think because if nobody else is gonna say it, then I feel like I have to because I've done it. I'm done with this. This is what I do. Like I gets busy. Like I get busy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
if we not gonna, you know what I mean? If the media is not gonna say it, and if the record label and your favorite artists and executives that you respect, if they not gonna say it for whatever reason, then I feel like I gotta say it. No, don't. I get busy, man. So until you actually listen to me, then these types of comments, I gotta feel a certain type of way because it's not being judged on the merit that it should be judged. You see what I'm saying?
But what do you say now when you say that? And this is your craft,
Sure,
your words, your art form, your delivery. What do you say to people in the industry who could say, well, it's not being recognized and it's not being received and given the correct merit, but maybe that's something you might need to change? And if that's the case, how would you change it as an indie artist?
repeat that question again, just so I can answer it correctly. Say it one more time.
I said, what do you say to the people who may say that your art form, your delivery, your production of your skills as an MC is not being recognized and given the correct merit? So what do you say to industry people in particular who say, well, maybe that's something you need to change as far as getting it in the right places and to the right people so that it can be heard, it can be pushed, it can be marketed and promoted to the point where the merit it deserves, it starts to receive?
That's what I thought you said. So I'm going to answer that like this, man. The industry is made up of gatekeepers. Right? It's like the Wizard of Oz effect, right? If they tell you the color is green today, right?
It's green.
Then it's green. You know what I'm saying? If they tell you the color is blue, it's blue. So when you have gatekeepers and influencers that can dictate what a hit is supposed to sound like, what an MC is supposed to sound like that's deemed to be great, then that tells me that there is no standard, if you will, because the game and the playing field always changes. So my thing is, I learned that and I realized that. So what I did is what I've always done as a shorty growing up, because I was always a new cat in school, right? I changed schools multiple times. So I was always the new person. And as a new person, and it could be to some fault of my own, but I never was the cat to assimilate, especially when I don't really feel that
Okay.
group think, if you will. So I
Right.
always took my ball and went to the corner by myself. And then eventually somebody would come over there and say, oh, this cat is kind of nice. You know what I'm saying? Oh, this cat is kind of thorough. Now, all of a sudden, either that group think comes over to where I am, right? Or I built my own little situation. So that's what I say to the industry. I figured that out. I see what this is. I see what type of atmosphere this is. So you know what? I'm going to take my ball and go over here.
That's an interesting perspective, particularly if you are with a major label and major producers, because that pushes you into a group limelight as far as the whole team and everything that's behind you. So I guess it was kind of like when you were on Universal, was that like a conflicted relationship
Oh, absolutely.
because of the way you perceive things?
Absolutely.
How so?
Absolutely.
Let us know. How so?
I mean, there were certain ways that, okay, it was my naivety, right? My naivety is, damn, I just want to get my records heard. Not really fully understanding what this business is really about.
Right.
So I signed my deal. Finally, I get to get my records heard by everybody in the world. But damn, where did this red tape come from? I didn't see this. This is something as a person from the outside looking in does not notice. You only notice the red tape once you get inside the house.
Right.
So once you get inside the house and you see the red tape, here comes the conflict. Because damn, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know we had to do this. I didn't know we had to jump through that hoop. I didn't know we had to go down that path. I didn't know we had to talk to that person. Oh no, I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Now, you know, I hear a lot of interviews and things like that. You know, matter of fact, I heard something, and shout out to J. Cole, man, one of the thorough cats in the game. And he figured out how to, you know, kind of play it, which I didn't, you know what I'm saying? But what he said is that sometimes, you know, you got to give a little to get a little, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which I fully understand that now. But the caveat is, whatever that little is, what is it that you're giving and what is it that you're getting? You see what I'm saying? Whatever that little is, that whatever the makeup of that little is, you know what I'm saying? Is the key to whether or not you're willing to give a little to get a little, if you understand what I'm saying. So
absolutely.
I just wasn't really willing at that particular time in that particular stage. Once I got in and I saw, you know, the things that went on, I just wasn't willing to do that. And so that led to the beginning of the end, if you will. You know what I mean? I think it was already written once they figured out the type of person and the type of people that my crew was. You know, it was a lot of conflict, a lot of bumping heads, and then it was a lot of inexperience on everybody's part. You know what I'm saying? First time for everybody. You understand? Even Universal. Because this is Universal's first venture into promoting any type of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Think about it.
Really?
Yeah. 1996, 90, they were brand new. They wasn't doing hip hop music. So it was throwing up
all these years. All these years, I never realized that till you just said it, and you're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything was new.
I ain't realized that all this time. That's crazy. So you go from everything that's going on, and as you just said, everything being brand spanking new, all of the creation, the mixing, the recording, the collaborations, the situation with Big leaving us untimely and unfortunately, and what that probably threw certain parts of your career into as far as a tailspin. Now we get to the second album. Okay. There were a lot of firsts.
I got to pour a drink for this one. Hold on. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead and fill your glass to the rim. There were a lot of firsts on that second album, which, you know, up until I guess a year or so ago, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't even available through digital sales, etc. But I think if I remember right, you do have that second album available on one of your platforms now, correct?
Tracey Lee Music.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. The album we're talking about, for the listeners out there, is Tracy's second album. It's called Live from the 215. Now, again, another hot album. Let the people know, as far as producers, let them know as far as artists who work with you on that second album, which, by the way, never saw the light of day and was never officially released by Universal Records.
Man, you got a lot of insight on that one. I'm about to ask you some questions in a minute.
That's why I asked you to ask this question. That's exactly why.
So
That's exactly why.
You know what I'm saying? So this album, like you said, Marv, you know what I'm saying, or Matisse, however you want me to address you in this particular junction. It was produced.
Matisse is fine, sir.
All right, cool. Yes, sir. This particular album, there were a plethora of producers, but you know, most known is a very, very young, very, very energetic, very, very eager Kanye West. He produced two cuts on the album. I had to, and, you know, it was executive produced by myself and Derek D. Angeletti, of course. But we had features on there, features with the likes of Corrupt, Buckshot, Black Rob, who else? We had a big interlude on that particular album. We had Cassandra Lucas from Change of Faces on the album. We had am I missing somebody? You know, if I am, you know, blame it on my head, not on my heart. But you know, I mean, the album was well produced. It was. I mean, and it was so different from Many Faces because it was a more direct approach. Many Faces was theater. Many Faces was a concept album. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Dope in its own right. Live in the 215 was straight at your neck. No cookie cutter. No, like it was just. And I was at the stage of my life, and you could listen to that album, and you could tell there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of, you know, like, yo, y'all think it's a game, y'all taking me for a joke. It was that type of approach, and I'm not just talking about the label, I'm talking about the industry itself. So I mean, it was a lot of lashing, but it was dope. It was dope lyricism.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just came from a whole different place. And you listen to Many Faces, and you listen Live from 215, and you'll see the perils of the industry when you compare both of those albums. You dig what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So yeah,
I felt that with Live from the 215, when we would listen to it, when we would play it, when we would shoot the videos, like Ready, Willing, and Able, songs like Go Ahead, some of the songs I heard even from, you know, that may not have made that album, from 763, I felt the pain that you was going through. I witnessed a lot of it firsthand, but remarkably, it may sound crazy, and maybe because for Many Faces, I wasn't in your circle at the time, I felt Live from the 215 was a better representation of who you were as a true artist, because you did feel that pain. You were addressing things directly head on. It was no filter. It wasn't no sponge. It wasn't no marketing department to say, hold up, wait a minute, you can't say this. No, the hell with that. This is what I'm going through right now. I'm an MC. I'm not a rapper. And my pen is going to actually dictate how the hell I'm feeling right now, because I'm the one that's going through this. Y'all sitting in these suites, and it's all sweet. You getting paid a hell of a lot of money. I'm the one that's down here going through the struggle and the rain and the pain, you know? Right. So anyone who does not have that album, make sure you go to TracyLeeMusic.com and purchase Live from the 215. Guarantee you, if you like music, if you're a real hip hop fan, even got some bangers on there that you can, you know, get down in the club to as well. You can get your gangster on. And the thing is, it was an album that had everything on it at the time. You had the West Coast representation from Corrupt. You had the Midwest sound representation on the production of a young Kanye West. You had the Backpack MC era with Buckshot from Black Moon and that whole collective. And then you had what's my man's name from Bad Boy with Black Rob. Yes, right. You had him on there. So that to me was another situation where, in my opinion, Tracey Lee should have been stepping into another certified album.
Not to mention, and not, you're absolutely right. And not to mention, the first video that I shot off of this album was for a record called We Like, which we shot down in Atlanta, which was shot by Brian
Mm-hmm.
Barber. Now, Brian Barber is the director for Outkast that shot Idlewild and
Yep.
all of their videos, who also featured in this particular video a very young Ludacris,
Yep.
you had never seen
Yep.
before, and very young Lil Jon, who you had never seen
Yep.
before. You know what I'm saying? We provided the platform for those guys to be seen first before anybody. You know what I mean? So you start talking about being ahead of the curve on a lot of situations. You know what I mean?
Don't forget, it also featured on a Grammy Award winning Fatman Scoop.
Fatman Scoop. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because and that's the thing I've always felt from when I came in and you and I met in your career. It's like you are that genuine, like, starting shot for a lot of people.
Oh man!
And like you
about
said,
to segue into something. Go ahead. I'm gonna let. Matter of fact, let me stop you right there. The Buster video, the remix of the thing. You know who shot that?
Yeah. Who?
Director X. Lil X. Director X, which was his first video in the States.
Damn. Wow.
And
that's what I'm saying, and that was my point.
And we talked about that. Like that was his springboard into him actually shooting Superfly. You see what I'm saying? Like he was like, yo, you are the person that really, like, that video is really the video that sparked my brain as far as shooting films.
And I can see it now, because if you go back to, for people who may not have seen that, if you go back to the theme remix for Busta Rhymes, you look at the colorization, you look at the film texture, you look at the difference in what's going on in the video. As I said earlier, it's like a cross reference between being a child, being an adult, being in reality, being in almost an animated cartoon, even though it's not animation. But like you said, it's almost like a fairy tale, like the Wizard of Oz, with the other reference you use towards that too. So I could see his mind with all those colors, that film texture, the subject matter. After leaving you're not mentally walking away from that as a creative. That is going to stay in your head. So now I get a phone call, I get Missy, I get Super Duper Fly, I gotta go bigger. So again, it's like you have set the tone, in my opinion, and were indirectly and sometimes directly responsible for the start of a lot of people in small, indirect ways. That's crazy. That's why I always hope and I pray that you really get your just due. And that's why I asked the question earlier when we were talking about Nore, about the marketing and getting your product where it needs to be. Because I can understand your individuality and wanting to take your ball and leave. But I think you're too damn talented and you put too much work in not to have that shot. Get it, put yourself in position for it, take it, and win.
And I appreciate that. And I said this in a rhyme that I just wrote. You know what I'm saying? I said, and if I sign with a major, it'd have to be the same paperwork they gave Master P. You see what I'm saying? So for the right situation, I mean, we could always. I would love to make that happen, but until then, especially,
I'm gonna stop you right there, though. Here's the irony there. Go to episode 2, No Limit Chronicles.
Yeah.
And what did they say about Master P? He got to the money when he got with St. Charles. I'm sitting in that seat that St. Charles was sitting in. He's my business partner. Shouts out to Charles Thurman, my business partner, SMG Solo Music Group.
Yes.
So, Mr. Lee, there may come a time in the future when we're having a serious conversation in regards to business, and I'm going to leave that there. Let's get back to the interview.
Welcome that. Let's go.
Hey, listen, it ain't like we don't know each other.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? It ain't like it will be new, like we're just meeting each other. So we're at live from the 215, not released. Excuse me. What was that day like? Because I know, and it's not to make you relive anything negative, but I also want people, when they hear this, to be inspired by the things you've been through and the fact that you go from these albums, and we're going to get to what you have out now. After slight technical difficulty, before we got interrupted and disconnected, I was going over with you, just asking you to get into, that day, that particular day, when you realized and you got the word, the notification about your second album, Live from the 215, being shelved. Can you walk us through that right quick?
It was actually I was in Miami, man. Ironically, and I'm thinking, we're about to blast off. I just got off of a summer fall tour, if you will, with Ram Squad. You know what I'm saying? We had like kind of, got in the van and really did it old school style, man. Just went up and down the East Coast, doing shows, doing interviews, blah, 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 because, Ram was the new kids on the block being in the system at Universal. So, we had a show down in Miami. I guess it was a part of the promo situation. Like I said, this was exclusive from that particular run we did with Ram Squad. And I'm thinking, okay, it's about to go down. But then, we're in Miami and it's a bit of an omen because it's in the middle of, I want to say it was January. Yeah, it was January, either December or January, but it's raining and it's cold and it's damp. It's like, it's not Miami, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so that should have been the sign. And then, the purpose for us being down there, it got canceled. Like the show got canceled, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just, damn. So then, I get a call saying, oh, well, don't worry about it. Just enjoy the weekend, da, 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 da. So I'm like, all right. But, I mean, we in Miami and it's cold and it's wet. What am I going to do in Miami? So it's like, we kind of, just regulated or relegated to the hotel. So we get on the flight. I think it was a Monday morning. Down there for the weekend. We get on the flight Monday morning. We land back in JFK. And, I got a cell on me at the time. My cell rings. And I forget who it was. I think I do know. I think it was the secretary for Monty Lipman. Lipman secretary said, yeah, just calling and inform you that your services are no longer needed.
Damn.
We have a parting gift for you, if you will, just stop by the office, da, 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 da. So I'm just like in the airport, and I forget, it was two other cats. I want to say one of them was Lance, and maybe the other one was my man, Jay Parlay. I was like, yo, the show's over. You know what I'm saying? We just got dropped officially. So, and it kind of, it numbed me for a second, but it didn't really, really, really sink in until, because I was staying in the Bronx with Lance at the time. And, we was operating everything out of the crib that his pops had left him. You know what I'm saying? So we was doing everything up there. But, once that news hit, there was no reason for me to stay in New York. So it's like, all right, it's time to go. Where? Where am I going? I don't have a crib. You know what I'm saying? I didn't own a vehicle at the time.
Damn.
Where am I going? You know what I mean? So wound up going back to my mom's crib. You know what I'm saying? And so that's when it really hit me. It was like, damn, okay, what are we doing? Now, one thing that I did do well, a little bit of money that I was bringing in, I was able to save. You know what I'm saying? I was very with regards to saving money and not splurging and not balling out. I wasn't really that type of dude trying to portray a persona or live a life. I was able to put some money away, but I knew it wouldn't last forever. So I really had to be quick on my feet and start thinking about what I'm gonna do next. And that took me a minute. So I'm at the crib, and I probably was at my mom's crib for maybe about 3 months. I'm still, in there, but I'm, on planes and doing all types of movements and all that other stuff.
Lord, yes.
Some things out. You know what I'm saying? On trains, you know what I mean? Still trying to figure some things out. So my mom was like, you got the role. I don't care where you go, but you got to get up out of here.
Right.
So, one place that I went was LA. Stayed out in LA with my cousin A. He works for Nike. I stayed out there for about 5 months.
Right.
That didn't really work out. You know what I'm saying? Like, LA just didn't feel right for me.
Mm-hmm.
I and then the next place was Atlanta. Um,
Right.
I went down to Atlanta, live with my brother. Went down to Atlanta, and wound up staying there for about a good 3 years. Like I say, from about 2001 until 2003, 2 years, 2001 to 2003. I stayed with my brother for a year, and then I was fortunate enough to, get into a relationship with a young lady down there, and we both did right by each other. It
Mm-hmm.
just that it didn't work, in the end, but she was
Right.
actually a bit of a saving grace at the time because, after my brother went to grad school, I was still like, kind of trying to figure it out. I did some work with Nike, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The Nike Battleground situation. Me and John Sally were the co-hosts for the one-on-one tournament that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Was able to make some ends meet with that. I put out a single called Ready, Willing, and Able that Marlon Wayans had actually funded, you know what I mean? And we tried to work that, shot a video and all that good stuff. And doing some things with the NBA, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Doing some hosting with them, doing All-Star weekends and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it just wasn't stable. It wasn't stable
Right.
at all. We were still riding off of the wave of, being Tracey Lee from the theme back in 1997. You know what I mean? And that was
Right.
slowly fading away. So
Mm.
I had to figure some things out, man. Ran out of paper, started running out of paper, and then I got down to my last $7, man. And I tell this testimony every time that I do an interview. You know, I'm very spiritual cat. I give everything, and everything that I do, I give it up to God and
Absolutely.
let that sort it out. You know what I'm saying? Let it sort out the way it's supposed to sort out. And so I wound up going to church with the $7 because I was like, what I'm gonna do with $7? Go get a meal and then that's it. So it's like, hey, take it. I put it in a collection plate. I don't know what the church does with it, but I know what my intentions were when I gave it. I gave it
Right.
to God, right? To
Mm-hmm.
figure my situation out. So I get a call a week after that situation from who did I get from? Man, slips my mind. But anyway, I get a call, and the person that called me was like, yo, there is a publishing check waiting for you. You know what I'm saying? But they don't have an address for you to get it. So you might want to call Universal Publishing, blah, 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 give them your address, da, 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 and then they will send you, you know what I'm saying, your check. Wayne Barrow called me, who was the cousin of Mark Pitts, who operates by Storm. He called me. He said, yo, they got a check waiting for you, but they didn't have an address to send it to. So, I called them up, gave them my address. A week after that call, I get a check in the mail for $7,000.
Look at God. $7 turned into 7,000.
But wait, there's more. So then a week after that, I get another check for $57,000.
Damn.
So now I'm like, oh, right. Now we pay off some things that we had to pay off. We still got to figure this out though, because that's going to run out if I don't, you know what I'm saying, generate it or regenerate it, if you will.
Right.
So I wound up going get it, I had to go get a job, man. I wound up working for it was a furniture company. You know what I'm saying? Aaron's Furniture. They move, they have rented furniture where people can rent furniture for a couple of months, rent to own.
Right.
So I was moving couches in people's houses and televisions and all that stuff. I remember one time I was in Atlanta and I moved somebody's couch in, and when I was moving the couch in, they was watching BET and they was watching Rap City. And just so happened the theme comes on. So they look at the TV, they look at me, they look at the TV, they look at me, they look at the TV. It's like, yo, what are you doing here? It's like, hey man, You know what it is. So I wound up, you know what I mean, smoking an L with them and stuff like that, you know what I mean, and really telling them, you know, what really went down. They was like, yo, you were real, yo, you were so real. Like, this is crazy, da 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 da. You know what I mean? But it speaks to, you know, just things gotta move on, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Move wherever, but they just gotta move, you know what I mean, in order for things to fall in place the way they're supposed to fall, regardless of the situation, regardless of, you know, how you may feel, regardless of your ego. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that their ego couldn't have took being dropped and having to go back and move furniture and being spotted in the public as somebody that was, you know, on TV, and then all of a sudden they, you know, down as people, they're down here with the common folk, you know what I'm saying? Like, nah, people, that was just my profession, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, but I, you know, I'm sitting on this money and I had to figure it out. And it just, you know, just after praying and all this other, it clicked. It's like, you have to use the things that you were put in a position to do and to be. You have to use those experiences and that knowledge to parlay that into something that still was within this industry, but be able to pass it on to others that are just starting in this game, starting in this business, that don't have a clue, like you didn't have a clue. Going back to that conversation we had, when I walked in this door, I didn't know that there was red tape involved. I just knew there was a house and I wanted to be inside, but I had no idea what was inside. And once I went inside and I saw the tape, I was like, damn, this is what it is. So now I need to take that and forewarn, if you will, others that are trying to get into this game. Yo, it ain't just the house. Once you get in there, that's when it really goes down. So it just clicked to me, man, go to law school. Because what that will do is that will give you the basis and the foundation of what it is that you are supposed to do, using all of the circumstances, all of the trials and tribulations that you went through. Use that to be able to educate and school those that are coming up behind you, as well as use it for yourself as you further your career as well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's what I did in 2003, man. I wound up taking some of that money. You know what I mean? I wound up getting a scholarship too, but I wound up using some of that money to be able to maintain a certain type of lifestyle that I wanted to live for the next 3 years while I was studying, you know what I'm saying, and going to law school. So I went to law school in 2003, graduated in 2006 with my Juris Doctorate, and passed the bar in 2007 in Louisiana.
All right. Now that's what led during the Drink Champs conversation. I believe it was Jada. Jada Kiss responded and said he's a lawyer now. My man's a lawyer now.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Absolutely.
So how many degrees from Institutes of Higher Learning do you hold?
I hold two. I hold a bachelor's degree from Howard University and a Juris Doctorate degree from Southern University. All HBCUs. That's all we do, as you can see. I mean,
Listen,
my mom went to Clark, my dad went to Clark, my sister went to Clark, my brother went to Morehouse, my other sister went to Howard. We keep it black, man.
That's it. Ain't nothing wrong with that, because we're doing the same thing here. Keep it black and ain't trying to go back.
Exactly.
So now you make it through law school.
My wife went to Howard, but yeah, go ahead.
No, I ain't mad at you. Give her props too. Let's love everybody at Howard University and all HBCUs from in studio, Music Matisse, First Fam Chill, SMG, our whole squad. We love y'all, man. Look forward to getting out there, tearing up some stages in 2021 with you too, God's willing.
Absolutely.
But you make it through law school now. So where do you go from that particular point?
I go back. I come back to DC, man. Because DC is really, you know, the DC area. This is where, you know, I became a man. This is where, you know, Philly is where I learned the tricks of the trade. You know what I'm saying? As far as, you know, my adolescent years, falling in love with what I do as far as the culture is concerned, where I got the cut of my jib. You know what I'm saying? But DC area. Howard, that's where I became a man. That's where I found who I am, you know what I'm saying, or who I will be for moving henceforth.
Right.
Plus, I love the area, man, because to me, this, beside here in Atlanta has changed so much, but this is where you find, you know, the most affluent black people in America. You see what I'm saying? It's not New York, it's not LA, it's here. Per capita, man. You find people that look like you in the banks, in the grocery stores, in the, you know what I'm saying, in every aspect of your movements, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna find people that look like us. And again, it's a place of where people aren't, you know, starving, if you will. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
That come from a certain type of background, that have a forward thinking type of mentality, you know what I'm saying, where it's about helping out generations to come, helping out our people, you know what I
Right.
mean, things of that. So this is really the only place that I kind of, you know, thought about coming back to live and raising my kids and all that other stuff. So I headed back here after you know, after law school. And a large part of that is because my wife was here. You know what I'm saying? She wasn't
Gotcha.
my wife then, but you know what I mean? I had to be next to her. You know what I'm saying?
Understood.
So, like,
Understood.
yeah. So I was like, yeah, I'm coming back up here. I was a nomad, if you will. So I had my pick of the litter with regards to where I wanted to live.
Go.
I
Yeah.
could have went anywhere. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, cool. I'm coming right back here. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So talk to me about law school behind you. You back in the DMV, the DC area. What led to the development of your company, Left Entertainment?
Um, really the knowledge that I had gathered throughout the years and
Mm-hmm.
desire to, you know, develop my own corner, if you will. You know, this is the aspect of taking my ball and going over here and on this side.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there was still the desire. It still is the desire to be an artist. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I saw the game changing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
drastically. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah.
So, you know, by 2007, we were pretty much at the end. You know, we were at the stage of consolidation with regards to labels. You know, it was 7 majors, now it's down to 3. You know
3.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We are in the MP3 stage. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
CDs are becoming obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the way that people went about, you know, consuming music had changed.
Music. Yeah.
So it was like, how do we attack this in a different way? We're not going to get another deal, not right now. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But we still desire to have or to make music. We still have the desire to put it out there for people to consume. Where's the game going? How is it changing? Now, I remember having a conversation with this cat named Big Will, who
Mm-hmm.
won the freestyle on BET, won the freestyle Fridays for 5 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll tell you, he was like, a matter of fact, he called me up maybe about a month ago. He's like, yo, Trey, you always been on this independent thing, you know, as far as he knew, because
Right.
back then, you know what I'm saying, like we started working with him in 2003. And
Mm-hmm.
even then, you know, after he had won and he had a couple deals on it, you know, people bidding for him, if you will, from the Jays to the Jimmy Iovine's and all this other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, this game is changing, man. You know, like you know, I understand the desire to want to deal and see this is a part of this handing down the information to these younger cats that's coming up in the game. But we had a conversation just last week. He's, you know, he's a veteran, he's seasoned now. But he was like, yo, Trey, you
Mm-hmm.
always been on it independent. And so with left entertainment, it was not only my desire from a musical perspective, but my wife's desire as well, because she's a publisher of books. She writes
Mm-hmm.
children's books. She publishes other books. She ghostwrites. But it was always about, you know, carving out our own independent niche because of the way that the game always
Mm-hmm.
changes. And it's not always the way you envision it. So the only way that you're going to be able to create like you want to create and do the things that you want to do is that you maybe in the end you may want to do some type of buyout or merger with somebody else that sees what you're doing over in this corner and feels like that it could be profitable for them to, partner up with you or buy you out, blah, blah, blah. But the only way you're going to be able to dictate and create that space for yourself is to do it independently. You're not going to be able to do it under the guise of somebody else's umbrella, and unless you just know the owner of that particular situation and they just feel comfortable with you just running the ship yourself. So and the word left, the way because we're going left is symbolic. We're going left, and not only are we going left when other goes right, we're spelling it even different with 2 L's instead of 1. You know what I'm saying? So everything is different, you know what I mean, with regards to the spelling of the name, the way that we're operating as a company, and even the products that we put out. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be different than what the marketplace is showing you and putting in front of you. You know what I mean?
How many, we're getting ready to get to the new project, but prior to the new project, how many albums have you released under Left Entertainment, your own company, you and your wife's company?
I have released 2 albums, and the new album is be the third one. So we released 3 albums up under the company since 2014. ESQ Revelation, Expect the Unexpected, which was ESQ Revelation was in 2014. Expect the Unexpected was in 2019, and then Glory is 2020.
Prior to Glory, with the first 2 releases, would you say honestly that they have been independently successful, and if so, why?
I'd say yeah, because with ESQ, it laid the foundation and the groundwork for the company itself, and it told the story of what the hell happened, because people had not heard from me really. 215 never got released, so I'm not even gonna that. People had not heard from me on a national scale since 1997. So you're talking about a 17-year hiatus. You know what I mean? So that had to be told, like, because there were people just really wonder what the hell happened. There's certain people that's close to me that knows what happened, but for the music listener, the average music listener, they didn't know. So lay the groundwork, and how you measure success is that when you put a record out, at least in my mind, when you put a record out, not only from a monetary perspective, but you put out a piece of work that people can revert back to, that they're reverting back to now based off of the new project, that, okay, gives you some type of context of where I'm coming from, even with the new project. And so we were able to, get into a couple of magazines like Black Enterprise and, get a couple of blogs on top of, telling this story. And it really, started the ball rolling with regards to telling my story, from going from MC to now entertainment attorney. So I would say that was successful in that perspective. And then and then Expect the Unexpected, that was an album that was produced solely by O'Jiz, who also did Glory, and we'll get into that, where we're now getting into really digging into Tracey Lee's sound as it pertains to, 2019, 2020, where we are today. It's Expect the Unexpected was damn near like a new beginning, because I got all of the I guess everything that had been built up inside of me for the last 17 years. I got that out with ESQ. I told you that story. I let you know where I was. I let you know where my mind state is. And it was really closure. It was closure to that chapter. It was closure to even, the many faces aspect. And damn, it took 17 years, but we finally got closure to that. You know what I'm saying? So I felt free. So Expect the Unexpected was really a freedom thing, man. It was like I was trying some things, different flows, different concepts, just being free with with my craft. You know what I'm saying? I still think, there's definitely room for success with that album because that's relatively new. I just released that last year. You know what I mean? And there are people that still don't know
Yeah.
about it. But I think the way that music is consumed now, you know, and this is where this whole content thing, which, you know, I have a love-hate relationship with that. Content thing in a good way gives people the opportunity that if you release enough content and you hit on one, then it'll force people to go back to what you've done prior to the one that hit for them. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, you know, for instance, if I release an album next year and that hits, like, oh, this is crazy. Well, damn, he released 3 other albums right before, prior to that. Oh, well, let me see what that sounds like. You see what I'm saying? So I think when people start reverting back and they go here, expect the unexpected, and they go here, ASQ, they're in for a treat. You know what I mean? So,
So now we're at your new album, Glory. After Expect the Unexpected came out in 2019, did you think you would return so quickly to the studio? Is it a situation where you had songs left over, or it was just something burning inside of you that says, you know what I just did a year ago or less than a year ago, but I got to get this off?
Man, Glory is so apropos with this particular album. Everything was divine, yo. Everything was divine. Everything. I mean, even down to the lyrics. I know my hand was on the pen. I know that. I physically I saw it. I saw it. I witnessed it. And people that were around me, which is my wife and my kids, they witnessed me writing. But I would venture to say that 15% of that was me just saying, "Oh, I'm putting my thought into this, and it's coming out exactly where I wanted to." 85% of it, I had my hand on the pen, but somebody else was writing it. I was just a vessel. You see what I'm saying? Like that's how divine this was. You know what I mean? I wrote this joint in 2 months. I've never written a project in 2 months, ever. I literally, me and O'Jiz, he had about 60 tracks. We A&R'd it where we picked out 12 of the joints that just sounded right for where I wanted to go. And we sequenced the album 1 through 12 musically, sequenced it before I even wrote a word. Everything was laid out 1 through 12 before I even wrote it musically, before I even wrote a word. And then I wrote it 1 through 12 in that order.
So that was some type of intervention, a divine intervention from the beginning.
From the beginning. 2 months.
Wow.
I started writing on March 13th of 2020. Stopped writing on Memorial Weekend, the weekend that George Floyd got murdered.
Gee.
That was the last song, Sheesh.
Now, let's talk about that. With this album, and you just explained the initial process, the divine intervention, but does it address the world in the way that everything is going now with the police brutality, with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, with the political things that are going on? We just came off of the debate not even a week ago, the first one, and we saw the madhouse and basically a shit show that was. Does Glory reflect today's times? And I ask you that question simply because when we were growing up, we had a soundtrack to the civil rights movement. I really don't see that happening now. So does Glory actually give us food for thought with current events?
This is that album. I wrote that album with what you're actually saying in mind. Like I told you in the beginning, I listen to Marvin, I listen to Curtis, I listen to Stevie. These are artists that are always reflecting on the times. Vietnam War, you know what I'm saying? Social injustice, civil rights movement. They spoke about it, you know what I'm saying? In real time. And so that's exactly what was exactly the thought process when I created this album. Like that is something that I did consciously think about. Now, the meat of it, you know what I'm saying? The actual you know, the texture of it, the words and things like that. Those were the things that became divine intervention. You know what I mean? But I consciously thought about making an album that encapsulated what the hell is going on. You know?
Right. So with the entire project and it attacking and addressing those events, is this being presented to the consumer as a singles driven project, or are we getting a full plate to actually feed the malnourishment of our mentality because of what's going on right now?
It's a 37-minute book, if you will. Every song leads into the next one. Every song. That's why I gave it chapters, you know, along with the titles, because if you listen to one, it goes right into the next one. It's like you're turning the page. Each and every song, you're turning the page. This is not something that's single driven at all. This is something that has to be consumed for optimum listening. Now, I'm not saying that these songs can't stand on their own, because they very well can. You know what I'm saying? Each song bangs individually, but for optimum listening, you have to listen to it as a collective. You have to listen to it 1 through 12. You know, or 12 through 1. I know somebody that told me they listened to it backwards and it gave it an even deeper meaning for them. You know what I'm saying? But you have to listen to it as a collective in order to get maximum listening pleasure, if you will. So yeah, because that's how I wrote it. I wrote it that, like, you have to listen to it how I wrote it. I wrote it 1 through 12, like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't write Dominion, then wrote, you know, the love song, and then wrote Thanos. Nah, I wrote it just in sequence, just like you're hearing it.
So let me ask you this. If I'm listening to Glory as an adult man who's been a hip hop fan his whole life, born and raised in New York from when hip hop was coming from the dirt, what am I getting out of the very first song on Glory, as well as the middle song, and then at the conclusion on that final song, where am I?
Oh man. So the first song, what you're getting is you're about to enter into a dimension, if you will. You're about to enter into the mind state of Tracey Lee, right? And so with Dominion does just that. There's a lot of things that are going on around me, right? You got, what did I say? Trap pavilions, meaning drug houses, trap. You got poverty. You got, people that are drugged out on prescriptions. You got, lost souls. You got people that are building. You got people that are just naive to what's going on. You got Uncle Toms. You got everything that, and really, I'm being really specific about the Black community. And it doesn't, and it's not something that just happened today. It's not something that happened overnight. This is a condition that we've been put in from the beginning, from the last 400, 500 years.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? We've been put asunder, then put under slum provisions. You know what I'm saying? We were brought from where we were forcibly, you know what I'm saying, and put in these conditions.
Right.
For the last 400, 500 years, we've been conditioned to think a certain way. And now, it's going to take, I hope it doesn't, but it's going to take a minute for us to get out of these. But through it all, I personally have gained dominion, meaning I have gained control over myself and the things around me that I can affect. You know what I mean? And so with that, you become a threat, if you will, to the powers that be. So you got to armor yourself up. You know what I'm saying? You gotta, because the devil's gonna approach you. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But in the meantime, I'm looking for soldiers that's with me, you know what I'm saying, that also have gained dominion over themselves and the things that they can directly affect around them to join me. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that we can take this journey. Now, once you get in this journey, I'm gonna show you what it is. So now we start dealing with, from the first song, Glory. You're gonna start dealing with, you know, even if the world don't love me, fam don't support me, lies conspire, supporters want to short me. You know what I'm saying? Through it all, we still yelling glory. You know what I mean? Through all of that. So you gotta gear yourself up for that. Then you gotta gear yourself up, you know what I'm saying, for you know, for the constant, you know, especially within your community, those people that want to tear you down. And then not only them, but then you also got to gear yourself up for the political system. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are being thrown at us. You know what I mean? Lots of barriers. And that's you know, expressing it very lightly, but there are a lot of barriers. I mean, in order for you to succeed in this journey called life that you're gonna have to encounter, but you gotta strap up.
Right.
You know what I mean? So by the time you get to the middle song, you looking at all of these things, but we still moving on, and then you get to between song 6, which is Dewy Eyed, where you damn near want to, you're damn near in no, not you're damn near in tears, you're in tears. You know what I'm saying? You're in tears at Dewy Eyed because you see all of this shit that you're facing. But then here comes the light, because with darkness, there's always the light.
Right.
You gotta look for the light. You know what I'm saying? So the light starts when you hear Saved. This is the middle part of the album. You know what I mean? This is the part where you begin to see the light. You know what I'm saying? Everything is crumbling around me, but I stand on one thing for sure. I know that I'm saved because through all of this, we still here. You understand?
Right.
And so by the time you get to Saved and you get out to rejoice with me and Eric Roberson, you know what I'm saying? I just, you know, we're rejoicing again because we're in the light now. You know what I mean? But before we leave, there's a reminder with Sheesh. The war ain't over though. You know what I'm saying? Even though the light is here, Sheesh is coming to remind you that we still have some things in front of us that we need to deal with as a people, not individually, as a people.
Right. Okay. And the album is Glory.
Yes.
Let everybody know before we begin to wrap how they can actually get their hands on this music.
As of right now, again, we're going back to the independents, man. You can only get it on TracyLeeMusic.com, which is my website, TraceYlee music.com. However, if you want to indulge in the full experience, meaning, you know, behind the scene clips of how the album was made, you know, and interviews of the featured artists that are on the album, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/Tracy Lee Music and subscribe to everything, not only just the behind the scenes looks, but also some unreleased material like the Live from the 215 album and other material that I have never released before and has never been put out there for public consumption. You can get that with the subscription, you know what I'm saying, to patreon.com. But if you just want the albums, go to TracyLeeMusic.com, TraceYlee music.com, and Patreon, patreon.com/Tracy Lee Music.
Okay. So in closing, new album, you just let us know where we can get it from. It's called Glory. It features Eric Roberson, exclusively produced by super producer O'Jiz.
Yes.
Any other guests we should know about besides Eric Roberson on the album?
Oh, yeah. There were 2 artists that I ran into in my travels. Quinto from out of both of them, Quinto and Zamani, both of them out of Nova Scotia. 2 young sisters, fire vocals, man, fire vocals.
Okay.
They were so gracious enough to join me on a song called Freedom. They absolutely killed the record. But beside them and E, it's just me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But nah, I stand on this, man. This is probably not probably. This is my best work, without question. You know, just not only the song structures and the rhymes and but it just I mean, it just touches every aspect of your being. You know what I'm saying? And it definitely hits what the hell's going on right. right
in the
now.
world today. Okay. Well, if you don't have anything else, sir, let everyone know your social media, as far as
Yes.
IG, Facebook, how they can get a hold of you and contact you and interact with you via social media.
You can go to IG, Tracey Lee ESQ. That's TraceYLeeESQ. You can hit me up on Twitter. That's TRAYLEE. Again, the website, Tracey Lee Music, TRACEYLEE music.com. That's about it.
Okay. Yes, indeed. We want to take a minute and say thank you on behalf of myself, SMG Solo Music Group, First Fam Radio, First Fam Chill. Like I said, you know me, I know you. We go back like my man Hustle Man used to say, like spines and car seats or whatever the hell he used to say. So, you know, we're doing our thing. I see you doing your thing. You know, it's always love. You always got the platform here whenever you want it, whenever you need it. And I just want to wish you continued success, my brother. It's been a journey. I've seen almost a little over 20 years of that journey. You've persevered, you've endured, you didn't back down, and Lord knows you was walking through a lot. You know, a lot more stormy days. A couple of years did, and sunny days. But thank
No
God
doubt.
you're here.
No doubt.
You know, so everybody that's listening, everybody that will listen, thank you. This is in studio. Make sure you go check out Glory from Tracey Lee, as well as his previous projects that were released on the major labels and what he's released through Left Entertainment, his own company, along with his wife. Shouts out to your family. We thank you. And we out.
Thank you.
Peace and blessings, man.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.